4 unpopular bargains that Manchester United could still sign this summer who would massively improve our ability to create and score goals. I'll break this up into 2 or 3 episodes, essentially creating a mini-series just so I can analyse each player in depth. My first option is Ferran Torres, who we could surely get on loan with an option to buy from Barcelona, considering that we've just sent Rashford on loan there in a similar deal. 25, Premier League proven, can play across the front line, and has all the attributes needed to develop into an elite level centre forward. Having a skill set that is just as complete as Ollie Watkins, just trade in some physicality and aerial ability for technical ability and agility. Adama Traore at Fulham is 29, 30 in January, but has 1 year left on his contract, and so could be attainable for between £8 to £10 million. I think in 2025, Adama Traore is as good as he's ever been, and when I show you his expected assist rate later on in the video, you'll see that the accusation that he doesn't have end product in the final third certainly can't be levelled at him now. And combine that with his frankly incredible ball carrying and dribbling ability, I think with some defensive positioning, 1v1 training, and just developing his overall tactical understanding of the role, he could be a very good option to have as a right wing back. I'll analyse both Adama Traore and Ferran Torres in the next episode of this series, but in this video I'm going to be talking about 2 players who on their own are massively underrated anyway, but together their combination of elite level crossing and elite level aerial ability could genuinely create one of the most effective goal scoring partnerships in the league. But before I tell you who those 2 players are, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of different current season and retro jerseys, including the new Manchester United releases for the upcoming season. They sent me over this 25-26 Manchester United home shirt with Bruno Fernandes on the back, as well as this 2006-2007 white away shirt with Ronaldo 7 on the back, and this Zidane Juventus shirt from the 1990s as well. If you use code ATLANTIS at checkout, you'll get a 10% discount, so I'll leave a link in the description and in the comment section below. So United have already got Mbeumo and Cunha in the front line, both extremely effective on the transition. But the issue that United have had consistently over the past 2 or 3 seasons, and is likely to continue with the current skill sets in the squad, is going to come against sides who sit off deep and restrict space in behind the back line and between the lines. And so I think United should be looking to sign Youssef En-Nesyri from Fenerbahce, as they could probably also send Højlund the other way, with both players being valued at around £30 to £35 million. En-Nesyri has just turned 28, but given that his game isn't dependent on pace and far more on his offensive instincts, intelligence and 1 and 2 touch finishing ability, and of course he's one of the best headerers of a ball I've ever seen in my life, he's more than capable of sustaining this level into his early to mid 30s. And I'm really not exaggerating, as En-Nesyri's offensive aerial ability isn't just good, it may actually be the best in the world, as seen by these plot graphs showing his headed goals per 90 against non-penalty XG and non-penalty goals when compared against every other striker in world football last season. But even when we take his heading ability out of the conversation, he still ranks incredibly highly when we plot non-penalty goals against non-penalty XG, showing that En-Nesyri's goal scoring rate in Turkey last season was not just impressive in terms of the league that he's in, but highly impressive in general, considering he's pretty much outscoring every other striker in world football. If you then combine that with the crossing ability of Dwight McNeil, and United now have a simple but highly effective and consistent way to generate high value chances against sides that sit deep and compact. Football is simple, and creating via crossing situations is probably the most underused chance creating method in football right now. If you're one of the few people who seem to not rate Dwight McNeil, let's be honest, how frequently have you actually watched him? Because he clearly passes the eye test and the statistical assessment. People seem to make out as if I'm suggesting Matthew Targett or something. I don't understand how you can think someone like Dorgu is good enough to be our starting left wing back, given his attacking skill set at this point in his career, but then turn up your nose at someone like Dwight McNeil. But McNeil has never played as a left back. Well, that argument works against Dorgu because he played the majority of his time as a winger and on the right side for Lecce. Also, apparently the whole Premier League proven advantage only applies to players that Manchester United sign or are linked with, because McNeil has been showing his quality for the past 3 seasons at Everton, as well as prior to that at Burnley. I mean, the statistical assessment completely demolishes the arguments against his quality, as this season in the Premier League, when compared against every other winger and attacking midfielder in the league, McNeil ranked 3rd for both his XG assisted per 90 and his XG assisted per 100 passes, showing he's not only a high volume chance creator, but also a highly efficient one. And you can also see that Adama Traore actually sits 4th for his expected assists per 100 passes, and records an overall expected assist rate per 90 that is level with Cole Palmer and greater than Mo Salah, so McNeil is statistically the third best chance creator of any winger or attacking midfielder in the league, but some people think he's average. But you just look at stats. No, I don't, I just use the stats to gain a greater insight of a player's quality. A lot of the time the people who say this just don't understand the stats themselves. But let's forget the stats for the moment and analyse both McNeil and En-Nesyri from the eye test, so that you're able to visually see how effective they could both be together. So let's start with McNeil, and we'll take this game against Crystal Palace from earlier on in the season. There's absolutely no way Dorgu or Dalot, or even most other highly competent attacking fullbacks, have this quality in the final third. McNeil receives the ball in the right-sided half space, works a shooting angle efficiently, before opening up his body and curling an inch-perfect shot into the far corner. And slightly later on in the game, this time he's coming around the back post from the left, where his ball control to set himself up for the volley with one touch from the cross is genuinely an elite level piece of skill, as well as the finish on the volley past the keeper into the net. But it's his crossing ability which is his standout attribute, and alongside En-Nesyri as a centre forward, United now have a consistent method of creating high value chances even against teams that are going to drop off and sit in their defensive third. I mean, some of En-Nesyri's headers are absolutely absurd. Take this one against Anderlecht for example. He receives the cross behind the penalty spot but manages to direct the header with power perfectly into the bottom corner. And if you thought that was a one-off or a fluke, it's not. He did the same last season against Basaksehir here, this time from the opposite side, using more of a flicked heading technique, which is substantially harder to generate the power from. But look at the power and placement on his header, once again from behind the penalty spot, heading the ball into the bottom corner. But what if the ball doesn't come to him in that area to his head and to his feet instead? Well, against Adana Demirspor it did, with him finishing with a left-footed first-time volley with the same placement and power, but he can also finish first time on his right as well, as he did against Galatasaray, showing his agility, anticipation and offensive instincts to react quickly to the deflection before finishing first time on his right foot from a bouncing ball through the goalkeeper's legs. Now this is a different type of header coming from a curling in-swinger from the left. En-Nesyri's starting position allows him to gain space and momentum on the defender in order to spring above him, and this time same placement, less power, is a looping header over the keeper, not hitting the ground until it's in the corner of the net. This one for Fenerbahce in the Europa League last season showcases his heading technique, as he races into position from initially starting in a wider area, comes storming round the back post, and then has to slightly adjust his body positioning in order to direct the header where he wants, this time with less power but the same perfect placement as before to find the bottom corner. And of course there are other more notable examples such as his famous header against Portugal in the World Cup, the goal he scored for Fenerbahce last season against Manchester United in the Europa League, both of which show that he's a big game player, as well as the goals that Manchester United saw under Erik ten Hag, where En-Nesyri was able to receive two big chances through counter-pressing situations, and despite neither opportunity being what you'd regard as a sitter, he made the finishes look easy, having full composure, zero hesitation, and sublime finishing technique to accurately, with the inside of his left boot, find the back of the net both times. I mean, imagine if United are chasing a goal against a team who are prepared to sit deep in their defensive third and try to see out the game, then with McNeil and En-Nesyri, United would surely be far more likely to score than without a crossing or heading specialist like them. McNeil isn't just a player who's solely dependent on crosses in order to create chances, and En-Nesyri isn't just a striker who's solely dependent on aerial situations in order to score, as En-Nesyri is the perfect example of a striker whose movement enables him to generate high value chances consistently, whilst also having a variety of different finishes in his skill set, off of both feet first time or after setting himself with a touch, either with power, placement or finesse. And he's been consistently producing impressive output in European competitions both this season and over the last few seasons at Sevilla. In the Europa League last season for Fenerbahce, he ranked in the mid to high 80th percentiles for both his non-penalty XG and his non-penalty goals. As you would expect, it was lower the season before when he was playing for Sevilla in the Champions League in 23-24, but the season before in 22-23, he was once again sitting in the mid 80th percentile, scoring at a rate of 0.73 per 90. And a consistent theme throughout En-Nesyri's FBref reports over the last 2 or 3 seasons, in Europe and domestically, is his overperformance of his XG, not always significantly, but usually sustainably, pointing towards En-Nesyri being a consistent clinical finisher in front of goal. In regards to Dwight McNeil, the argument will be that we aren't signing a player just for their crossing, and I agree, but we wouldn't be doing that with Dwight McNeil. but he doesn't have the pace or the dribbling to carry the ball through the middle third. Wrong, he isn't a high volume dribbler or a carrier like Traore, but he definitely has the athleticism, close ball control and turn of pace to effectively progress the ball down the left side, with this example coming from 2 years ago against Crystal Palace, where he receives the ball in a deeper wing-back area on the flank, before looking like prime Ryan Giggs weaving his way through 2 or 3 Palace players on that side, before we see another key trait of McNeil's, and that's the weight of his through balls, which is one of his trademark attributes, capable of threading delicately weighted and perfectly timed passes in behind to release runners, capable of doing so either from the left or the right side, when standing statically or carrying the ball forward at pace. People will also say that he isn't good enough defensively, but in terms of a winger, being converted for that left wing back role, which is what United need, already having Harry Amas, Dorgu and Diego Leon, you could say that about most options. McNeil seems perfect. He's played as a left-sided midfielder in a hard-working 4-4-2 and 4-5-1 system for Sean Dyche at both Everton and Burnley over the past 4 or 5 seasons, and so he has been used to playing a role of a hard-working wide player out of possession, tracking runs and often having to defend deep in his defensive third. I think he's got the perfect profile to be converted to a left wing back role, and the chance creating and goal scoring output that he would provide really could only be matched by the likes of Diego Moreira and Teo Hernandez, who isn't even on the market anymore. In the final third, rather than looking to isolate players in 1v1 dribbling situations, as Ahmad would on the right side, McNeil instead on the left can sit slightly deeper, allowing Cunha to create 1v1 situations higher up the pitch, being ready to receive a pass backwards, where from I don't know who United could get on the market right now that's going to be a better crosser than McNeil, either from a deeper position or close to the byline, outswinging from the left or in-swinging from the right, which alongside Ahmad and Mbumo on the right side, as well as Bruno Fernandes when he drifts wide as well, would give United the quality crossing ability in the side to work crossing angles and supply En-Nesyri with frequent aerial chances throughout a game, where from En-Nesyri might be as good, if not better than Osimhen when it comes to not only winning the aerial duel, but also finishing with power and placement. And so from the eye test and statistically, I think you can clearly see that McNeil is not just an elite level crosser from out wide, but also an elite level creator when he is able to move infield between the lines and release runners in behind the back line, whilst also having the technical quality and ball striking ability to win games on his own via long range strikes and volleys in the final third. En-Nesyri is a pure poacher target man hybrid. His link up play outside of the box is really not his game, he doesn't specialise in that at all, but keep him high inside of the box and supply him with crosses and through balls, and I think he's as good a goal scorer as anyone else on the market right now. And with Ferran Torres and Xerxes, if United do need a striker who is more capable when it comes to dropping off and linking play, then either one of those could be used centrally in the front three instead, with En-Nesyri an option during certain games, as well as off the bench when United need a goal. So let me know what you think of En-Nesyri and McNeil in the comment section, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the video on Ferran Torres and Adama Traore, and if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co, you can use code ALANTIS at checkout to get a 10% discount. I'll leave it in the description and comment section below, and I'll also leave my Patreon on the end screen after the video in case you do want to check out any of my articles or see any of the plot graphs I've put on there.